yes, during summer of 2012, I went to the zoo with my now fiance Emily, and I said to her, like, I said, I'm working on this magazine. Do you think that I work hard enough uh, for it to ever become anything if it is? And she said no.
Thank you for joining us today, Nathan, on PivotMe.
Thank you so much for having me. It's an absolute pleasure to be here.
Absolutely. So I'm so glad that we got connected. We got connected through a mutual friend, and he said, you have to have Nathan Chan on. So I'm so glad that we are doing this and prioritizing this. We made it through our scheduling hurdles. But Nathan, so we just finished reading your bio, and it is impressive and all the amazing things that you are doing right now. And we're going to talk about some of those and how our audience can engage with some of that. But first, I'd love to know where the idea of Foundr came. And I believe it was initially named something else, but where did this idea of starting Foundr come from?
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, April. I'm really excited to be here. So pretty much Founder came from, like, I was working in a job that wasn't bringing me the fulfillment that I was looking for in life. I was working in IT support, and I loved the company, but unfortunately, I just felt that I could do more. And I started hearing about, like, from, like, this is 8, 9 years ago. So entrepreneurship wasn't as big as it is now. And I started to hear these stories from people in my network or friends of friends creating these online businesses from scratch. Like, and I was like, how the hell are people doing this? And they're having success
Yeah.
with no experience whatsoever. Um, so I started Founder with this kind of natural curiosity. Think of me as like an investigative journalist. And so I started this magazine on the side while I was working my day job, just starting to interview people to find out how the hell they were doing it. And, in the first 4 months, we got an interview with Richard Branson, which was crazy. And
Mm-hmm.
then, yeah, I started to uncover these incredible stories, and I had this light bulb moment where I was just like, wow, I could do this full time. Like, this
Mm-hmm.
could be a business. I could go out, interview some of the most greatest entrepreneurs of our generation, or people that you've never even heard of, but like, are doing these incredible things with business, and then just share that through the magazine, share that through the podcast, share
Mm-hmm.
that on this platform, because this is something that people need to know. Like, you can do it. It's going to be hard. It's going to be difficult. You're going to have incredible highs. You're going to have incredible lows, but it is very, very possible to create a business on something that you're passionate about and really make a difference in the world. So that's how it all got started. So I started this thing on the side, didn't make much money at the start, and then it just kind of took off, and was like, I've got to do this. I've got to share these insights. I've got to share
Mm-hmm.
these lessons. I've got to share these experiences, and the rest is kind of history.
Yeah. I wonder how often that is the case, that we sort of start this business that we wish existed, or out of our own curiosity, like, I'm going to figure out how this is. And then we appreciate how incredibly valuable it is to the world, to the marketplace. I think that happens more often than not. So I would love for you to tell the story of 4 months in, you get an interview with Richard Branson. So tell us that story, because he's one of the sort of kind of idealized, like, there's the unicorn, get an interview with him. So walk us through how you did that, and most importantly, Nathan, like, what mindset you had to be in to go, I should have Richard Branson on this.
So pretty much, I was doing interviews. I was going into, like, at the early days of Founder, it was really difficult to get anyone to, like, write back to me to want to do an interview. So
Mm-hmm.
one thing that I did was I met somebody that had interviewed Richard Branson for their magazine, and they laid out how I could do it. So just to keep in mind, like, in the early days Founder, I would get up really early, like at 6 a.m. I would go into the office of the job that I was working at. I'd find a meeting room. I'd do interviews before I start work, sometimes during my lunch break. And then
Wow.
I would go back home, and then I'd work from like 10 p.m., 9 p.m. to like 2 a.m., 3 a.m. And then I'd get up early and do it all again. So it was just kind of, it was this crazy whirlwind of going in and out and in and out. And yeah, along the journey, I was reaching out to people and I met somebody that got an interview with Richard Branson. They laid out kind of this blueprint. So the way that I did it was, first and foremost, I got in touch with his publisher, the book publisher,
Mm-hmm.
that from Penguin Random House. So one thing that I learned is, if you want to interview hard to reach people, if they have a book, which
Mm-hmm.
you would know from Brand Builders Group, right? Like,
Yep.
uh, they want to get pressed for their book.
Mm-hmm.
So I spoke to them, and then I got it. They put me in touch with his head of PR, and I never forget. I sent an email. I called on the phone. I think that's really important in today's age. Not enough people are calling people on the phone. They're hiding
Mm-hmm.
behind emails, and I called a couple of times, didn't get a response. So
Mm-hmm.
then what I did was, I never forget, I was at home. My housemate was making noise, and I was like, "Can you please be quiet? I've got to call Richard Branson's head of PR." And then I go into my room, and I was so nervous, and she picked up, and she was stumbling, and she's like, "I've got 2 minutes. I'm just about to jump onto the tube
Mm-hmm.
in London." And I just pitched, and I sent an email after that as a follow up, and I, like, yeah, talked to the fact that his first business venture was a magazine.
Mm-hmm.
I pitched for like an in person or video interview. They said he's super busy and he can do a Q&A,
Mm-hmm.
and the rest is kind of history.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a great story, Nathan. There's so many things I want to ask about, but the most obvious thing is I'm thinking about you have this regular job. And so there's obviously a lot of hustle and grind that has to happen. And that's often the case when we're straddling both the day job and the business venture that we're turning into a day job. But I remember hearing the story about how you were trying to get into marketing, which is insane now because you've been successful in marketing and all of the iterations that you've done. But there was
Mm.
a time when you were trying to get into marketing and it wasn't working in your own company, right? Is that a true story? Okay.
Correct, correct, correct.
So how do you make that leap of like, oh, I can't even get into marketing in my own company, to I'm going to create this product, this amazing product. I'm going to talk to the best minds in the industry, and I'm going to pursue Richard Branson at all costs, even if it means that I'm telling my housemate to hush up or I'm sneaking into conference rooms. Like, that's a really big leap. How did you make that leap?
Yeah. So look, first of all, it took time.
Mm-hmm.
So I was working in IT support. I made this decision that I wanted to do a career change. So I studied a master's in marketing. So I
Mm-hmm.
went back to school, and I was doing night school. And during that time period, because I was at a big company, I thought to myself, I might be able to pivot into marketing
Sure.
and get a job in marketing. So once I finished my degree, I started to kind of make friends with the head of marketing at the company, and kind of showcase my interest. And I went through a few different jobs.
Mm-hmm.
And for whatever reason, you know, everyone said, "Nathan, you don't have experience."
Mm.
And I never forget, somebody said to me, I applied for this agency, a digital marketing agency, and they said I didn't get it. And I asked for feedback.
Mm-hmm.
And and they said, look, it'd be really cool if you had your own kind of project to show your
Mm.
passion for marketing.
Yeah.
And then I was just like, okay, well, I stumbled onto this platform that allowed me to create this digital magazine and this software. And I was like, okay, well, I'm going to go for this, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, and I didn't know that the magazine was like going to be where it is today. I didn't
Mm-hmm.
know that, but I just jumped in. And please keep in mind, it took 6 months before the first issue was ready. And I
Wow.
remember, like, there were so many times when I thought, like, I'm going to give up. There were so many times where I was thinking, what the hell am I doing?
Mm-hmm.
I went through so many different designers. But then at this point in time, I'd spent a bit of money. Like, I spent a
Sure.
couple of grand on the software. I'd spent at least $500, $600 of, doing the magazine and putting it all together, working with designers, working with writers. And I never forget, I went to the zoo. It was during summer of,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it was during summer of 2012. I went to the zoo with my now fiance, Emily. And I said to her, like, I said, I'm working on this magazine. Do you think that I work hard enough for it to ever become anything if it is? And
Wow.
she said no. She said, no, you don't work that hard on it all. And I was like, wow. And that was a real turning point for me. So then I
Mm-hmm.
really started to dial it up. And, I was never a high achiever in life, to be honest with you, April. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I didn't get good grades at school. I'd never achieved anything at all. Wasn't good at sports or wasn't a school captain. So when I launched the magazine, March 2013, by the time I eventually launched it
Mm-hmm.
while working on the side, while still going for marketing jobs, while even taking it to job interviews,
Mm-hmm.
that first day that we launched and we had we made $5.50. We had 2 subscribers. That's where things also really changed for me, because I was just like, wow, this is something now. Like,
Yeah.
somebody is
I have
paying
a
me.
product now.
Yeah, I have a product, but not only that, like, I've got 2 subscribers that are waiting for the next edition. I've got to
It's
get going.
pressure.
Yeah, there's pressure.
Yeah.
So what do I do for the next edition? And then before you know it, it took time, and I just kept building that momentum. It wasn't like this big switch. It wasn't like this overnight bang, I'm interviewing all these people. Like, it was
Sure.
this slow build up as I've kind of talked you through it.
Mm-hmm.
And then over time, just built momentum, and it compounded, and it was just one step at a time.
Yeah.
And I hope that kind of breaks down some of the
It,
ins and outs of getting there. And,
it
and it took a year to build up to go full time even, and all these things.
It does. But Nathan, I'm wondering about that moment where Emily kind of gives you the truth tea. Like, what are you thinking when she said that? Because some people would say, many people would use that as evidence to not pursue. I don't work hard enough for something like this to be successful. Like, a lot of people would have used that as like, well, I'm out. It's not going to work. It sounds like that was the pivotal moment where you're like, yeah, if I want this to be successful, I have to work harder.
Yeah, 110%. And also, I was working on it for a long time. I was starting to get frustrated and I was thinking to myself, this might go nowhere. This might be
Mhm.
just another one of my things, right? Another one of Nathan's things where you start and you don't finish.
Yeah. This might be one of more of our thing. This is such an entrepreneur thing, right? Like the shiny new object, and like, oh, I just posted the other day that I said every entrepreneur knows their best idea because it was their most recent idea. Because
Mm.
we have like so many ideas, and they're all better than the other, and sometimes that's the case, and sometimes it's not. Um, so it sounds to me like this whole concept, this whole idea came from feedback at a job interview that you had that you should have your own project as evidence to get marketing jobs. Did I hear
Well,
that right?
Well, it started with this idea of doing something. Like, it started with this idea of doing work that I really enjoyed. Then it started with this idea of creating this magazine. Then it
Mm-hmm.
started with this idea of hearing these stories,
Yeah.
and that's how I became so passionate about the space. And then, fast forward to now, right? Like, we interview so many successful founders, and we put out so much awesome content to truly help people and change their
Mm-hmm.
lives. And if you look at the platform that we're looking to launch in the next few months, this founder membership all access pass with like all of our programs, where we're going to be launching one new program every single month after we launch this membership product. And you look at the lives that are changed. That's the stuff that is
Yeah.
really motivates me and gets me so excited.
Yeah. Yeah. So I wanna talk about the moment that you knew you had something. But since you brought that specifically up, like, who is this for? So, you have this big launch coming up in a couple months, and we're glad to be able to sit down with you before that happens. For the pivoters who are listening right now, how do they know this is something that I need to look at? Like, we're gonna put links in the show notes, but who is the person that this is really gonna help?
Yeah. So look, if you're in the early stages of your business, you're getting sales, you've kind of, found your product, found your service, and you're looking for more help. You're wondering about Instagram, you're wondering about Facebook ads, you're wondering about building your email list, you're wondering about email marketing, even
Mhm.
if you're wondering about other things like NFTs for business. Like, we have programs on every single one of these topics,
Mhm.
taught by world-class founders that have actually done it. So what we're trying to do with the Founder Course platform is all the people, all these successful people that we're interviewing, we're getting
Mm-hmm.
them to come back and teach on our platform and
Mm.
really go deeper and to break down their experiences into actionable frameworks that can help you step by step. So if you're in the early stages of your business, or even if you have a team and you're looking to upskill your team,
Mm-hmm.
we have so many incredible programs. We're trying to build the most comprehensive education platform online that helps you start or grow your business.
Yeah, that's powerful. There's definitely a lot of need for that. Sounds like who you're serving is who you were just a couple of years ago, too. It's like
Yeah,
the tool you
exactly
really
that.
needed just a few years ago.
Yeah, and look, you know, we've got community, we've got so many different frameworks, and the success stories of all these people that come from our programs is absolutely incredible. Like it's that's where the real gold is, right?
Mm-hmm.
The fact that you can, have someone do one of your programs and enroll in one of your courses, and then their life has changed dramatically because of that. Like you've changed the course of how they're living their life. It's insane. And
Mm-hmm.
it's crazy to think as well, like everything around us is built by someone.
Mm-hmm.
Like the microphone you're using, the headphones you're using, the webcam that I'm speaking to you on, the monitor, the laptop. Like entrepreneurs really do shape the world as we know it. And
Mm-hmm.
my mission at Founder is to build a platform that helps a lot of people at scale, like tens of millions of people every single week with our content, hundreds of thousands of members in our membership, that we can shape the future of the world as we know it. Like even it's crazy, like I say to some of my team, like we could shape and empower the world's next Elon Musk with the work
Mm-hmm.
that we're doing. And the kind of people that we speak to, like I'm very privileged and we're very privileged to speak to these people. We want to bring this to everyone. I think everyone should have access to this kind of information.
Yeah. Yeah. I love the idea that you might be like raising up the next Elon Musk and they just need a little bit of like a little bit of information here, a little bit of information there, and then they're on fire. Nathan, when did you know you had something? Is it the second you got the 2 subscribers? Is it a testimonial for someone? When is it like when was that pivotal moment where you're like, oh, this is something. Like I have something really special here.
Yeah, look, I think you have these kind of like little moments and
Mm-hmm.
then it builds up. First day we launched 2 subscribers, interviewing Richard Branson. That was just really fun, like, and just to bring that to life.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but then uh, I think I never forget in the early days, there was this guy I found online and I learned about this concept called product market fit.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember at the time, we had like at least a few thousand subscribers then. And I remember still not knowing if we had product market fit. And I found this guy's website, and for whatever reason, he did calls for free. His name was Ramley. He
Mm-hmm.
did calls for free just to help founders.
Hmm.
And I jumped on a call with him and I was like, man, like, I don't know if I have product market fit. And he was like, dude, like if you've got a few thousand subscribers,
It's
you've
working.
definitely got, yeah, it's working.
Yeah.
And I think that was a big, like kind of it's clicked moment.
Sure.
Um, I think also just seeing, each month, building up the magazine, I think that was really cool as well.
Mm-hmm.
I think it kind of just slowly builds. There was no like, I don't believe there was a light bulb moment where it's like
Mm-hmm.
bang. Um, but I think that catch up with Ramley was one of them.
Yeah. A lot of times it is though. Sometimes there's these moments, but they all kind of string together. It's not necessarily a profound moment, but you're like, that's when I knew something. And a lot of times it's someone else weighing in. It's not necessarily us going, okay, I really have something. It's almost like market feedback or an advisor's feedback or somebody else or a client that has had this radical shift in their life. And that's the moment where you're like, I need to do this. Like, this is really important. The marketplace, the world is waiting for this thing I'm about to put out there. So Nathan, I'm picturing you in this IT role and I imagine safe, secure job, probably a pretty decent life. When you had this idea of I'm going to do something totally different, were people around you supportive? I mean, family, friends, girlfriend, like were they on board or were they kind of like, yeah, yeah, what you have is pretty good. You should just leave well enough alone.
Yeah. So looking back, yeah, look, life was like I was comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
But I think something that was really important to me was I was uncomfortable with the work that I was doing. Like I think life is too short to not do work you enjoy.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I do remember my mum making fun of me. We make like my family, I'm close to my family, we make fun of each other. And I
Mm-hmm.
remember she's like, "Oh, you think you're an entrepreneur?" And we were just like kind of laughing. And I was like, "I'll show you." So, um, yeah, look, friends and family didn't really get it.
Yeah.
Friends, when I launched, friends didn't really understand or really were that supportive. Um, my partner was for sure, but yeah, people didn't really understand. And I
Mm-hmm.
think, no one in my family come from a business background. And I think it's one of those things, especially when you're working on it, no
Mm-hmm.
one understands. When you launch it, then they understand a little bit.
Yep.
Then when it becomes a full-time thing, then they understand a lot more. And then when you're
Mm-hmm.
doing it for a while, then they understand. But yeah, in the early days, no, I didn't really have much support at all.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think it's so important to hear because a lot of people will. So if you're a pivoter right now and you're listening and you're in the corporate space and your job is good enough, it's okay. It pays the bills. And what I've seen is that compounded with, say you have a 4-year degree or 6-year degree that also supports that thing. All of those become reasons where you should stay right where you are. Even if you know that you're like, there's something else in me. I could be doing more than this, but I went to school for this, but I've been working in this for this many years, but I've, rose the corporate ladder. All of those things and our family are often really good ways that we build a cage around ourselves and we don't even realize we're doing it. So I really want you to hear Nathan's words right now, Pivot, if you're listening. Like Nathan was there too. It was good enough. And not everybody was like, yeah, Nathan, you should be an entrepreneur. This just makes sense. It sounds like you're first generation entrepreneur. That's a tough road to cut.
Look, there's a couple of things that I'd love to share with your community, which kind of really helped me. The first thing was, how we talked about these small steps, right?
Mm-hmm.
It didn't happen overnight. I made a commitment to myself when I launched the magazine that I'd give this a good go, a good crack, as we would say here in Australia, a good crack for 1 year. I said I'd give it a good crack for 1 year and see what happens. That was the starting mindset. And then obviously I fell in love with the work we're doing. I realized that this content, everything we're doing, I need to get this into the hands of more people. So that was the first thing. Just give yourself a year. It's
Mm-hmm.
incredible what can happen in a year. The second thing is somebody said to me, if you can give it 30 minutes a day, then you're on to something, right? So 30 minutes a day, and that's what I did. I gave it 30 minutes a day, and it wasn't just doing research. It
Mm-hmm.
was doing things that move the needle,
Yeah.
like, writing that article, uh, you know, creating that new logo,
Mm-hmm.
reaching out to people for an interview. It was just 30 minutes every single day. If you can find 30 minutes in your day of like really like moving the needle activities,
Mm-hmm.
what you'll find is that becomes a habit, and that habit will compound. And what you'll find is sometimes that 30 minutes becomes 2 hours or
Mm-hmm.
3 hours or even one
Sure.
hour or 45 minutes. And if you can make that commitment to yourself, giving you a good hard crack for 1 year, committing 30 minutes every single day to working on your business and
Mm-hmm.
actually moving the needle, not researching, but actually moving the needle, doing
Yeah.
things that make a difference and move the business forward, no matter how small it is, even if it's just a small seed, you'll be far better off than where you were yesterday.
Yeah. That is such good advice. So go back and listen to that part again. That is invaluable advice. And I love that you called out the research piece, because a lot of people are like, oh, I've got this business, and they're doing the research. Research does not start businesses. It does not continue business. We're trying to stay safe when we're doing that. We are trying to, a lot of, a personal pet peeve of mine is this kind of, trend right now in social media of like hustle in silence and just let them eat their words when you're a massive success. I call BS in that. The hustle in silence is a great way for you to play small because you're afraid of failing and failing publicly. And I think it's so important to say, don't just research. Like, you've got to do the things that move the needle. And a lot of times those things are visible. That's actually pitching someone, that's calling someone, that's sending out an email. Research is safe, but it doesn't grow businesses.
Yeah, I agree.
That's so good. And I'm so glad that we were able to talk about the peer group thing. One of the things we talk about on PivotMe is this concept I have about a design versus default peer group. And your default peer group, which is where most of us live, is the people you work with, the people you live next to, maybe you're related to. If you got kids, your kids play with their kids. There's just sort of the people that are in our lives by default. But frequently, extraordinary lives are not built off of default peer groups. They're built by designed peer groups. And design peer groups are people that you purposely select to have in, not just cheerleaders, but people that have been successful at the thing you're about to do, because they normalize success in your future goals. So did you have people like that in your peer group when you were creating this? It sounds like you have them all now, but did you have people that had been successful in similar endeavors that you could kind of watch their success?
No, but one thing I did do is I reached out to people that did.
Okay.
So I found people that were using the same software that I was for creating magazines in different industries.
So not competitors. Perfect. Okay.
Yep. Or even if people, yeah, there was one person that had an entrepreneurial type magazine. Yep.
Okay.
And I put myself out there, and I did a lot of catch-up calls. I built relationships. And I think that is so key to wherever you're at on the journey, the peer group, but then also this concept of learning from other people that have done it.
Yeah.
And that's like a big part of what we're doing at Foundr and the ethos, right? Like, we go out and we find people that have done it, and we get them to unpack, their experiences, lessons learned in our interviews and content, but then also frameworks in our courses and programs. And yeah, so it's funny you asked me that, because I've never really talked about it. I didn't really think, in the early days Foundr, I reached out to people that were in similar shoes to me, or actually a few years or year ahead. So I found that incredibly powerful.
Yeah. And again, that's the piece that I think a lot of us skip, because that piece doesn't feel as safe. Because that's putting it out, making it visible. Like, I'm going after this thing. And, if you want to run a marathon, you need to hang out with marathon runners. You just do. If you want to write a best-selling book, you better know some people that write a bestseller book, have written one. I was working with a client once, and he said, I want to work a 10-hour work week. So not quite Tim Ferriss, but pretty damn close. And I said, great. Who do you know that works a 10-hour work week? And he said, well, no one. And I said, well, start there. Because they're going to normalize success in the thing, and you're going to see both framework, how they operate. But if they do nothing else, they just show you what's possible. And I love the idea of what you guys are doing at Foundr, because essentially you're kind of saying, here, borrow my designed peer group. Here's access to people that maybe you would never have the opportunity to sit down with and say, what was it really like? What was the pivot point? What was the moment where you thought it was all going to light on fire? And when is the moment that you knew you really had something? Most people don't get to have those conversations. So what I see is you're kind of bringing this design peer group concept to people who really need it most.
Yeah, no, 110%. Like, there is somebody out there in the world, wherever you're at, that has a problem that has solved it before. It's been solved before. And it's your job to go out and find those people, to connect with them, listen, learn, or find people that have done it.
Yeah. It's funny. There's a phrase we always say on PivotMe, where someone you already know could solve your biggest problem in under a day. The
Mm.
problem is we're just not thinking about that. We're kind of sitting in the problem instead of the solution. I love this idea, Nathan. I do want to ask you. So before we started, I said, hey, we talk a little bit about self-sabotage. We talk about some hurdles you face. So in any entrepreneur's journey, there's a moment where you're like, this isn't going to work. This, I've got to abandon ship. Sometimes it's, I'm not going to make payroll this month. Maybe it's wondering if you have the right fit for your audience. Tell us about a time where you face that, either with Foundr or maybe even a step before this.
Yeah. So um, I've had many.
Yeah,
So I'm
there's not
thinking
usually
about this
one.
question. Yeah, I've been thinking about this question a lot. It's such a great one because I think without this kind of self sabotage, without this kind of these fork in the road moments,
Mm-hmm.
which at the time they seem so difficult and so painful, you end up looking back and you're like, I'm glad that happened.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Look, I think I can share a couple with you, but probably one would be in the early days. I've hired friends
We
to
all
help me
have.
do to help me do all sorts of things,
Mm-hmm.
and uh, you know, it hasn't worked out, right?
Sure.
Like I remember one of my friends I hired in the early days to help me with some social media stuff, and he used it as work experience to go get a job. And I just wanted to help him because I
Yeah.
think me as a person, one of my greatest strengths is, I guess I really believe in people and I want to do the
Mm-hmm.
best for people and I really care about people. So, um, I gave it a shot, but I think also that can be my greatest weakness because um, I shouldn't have ever done that. And unfortunately, that didn't end well and we didn't get a great outcome on the business side. And then
Sure.
obviously it affected our friendship and yeah, it wasn't a good idea. So
Yeah.
that was probably a good self-sabotage moment in the early days founder before I could afford to hire anybody.
Yeah. Yeah. We all start there too. So, what Nathan just shared, if you're listening right now, you're like, oh, so they all do that. We all do that because it's kind of what we can afford. It's what we're comfortable with. Sometimes when we're starting out, we're not comfortable with hiring practices. The second someone sits down and goes, well, I'm going to hire my aunt for bookkeeping, or I'm going to hire my cousin for social media. I'm like, no, 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 trust me, this will end bad. Rarely does it end well. It's also almost always one of our first steps because it's what's comfortable and it's what we can afford too. So if you're sitting in there in that situation, know that you are in good company. It's where we all start and we all learn very much from that. Okay, so that was a hiccup. What about you, Nathan? Like how do you self-sabotage?
Look, for me, I think I, as I said, I never accomplished much. Like founder is the thing, and it is the
Mm-hmm.
thing because I'm so passionate about the work that we're doing, and it's an obsession.
Yeah,
Um, but at the same time, because I've never accomplished much before, um, sometimes you do feel imposter syndrome,
sure.
and sometimes I think, like, I didn't think it would get this far. Quite honestly with you, I didn't think it would get this far. I've talked a lot about the early days, and over time it's compounded. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I think there has been times and where I haven't really felt worthy of how far it's been able to go. And, then I have made decisions which perhaps come from not a place where I'm feeling worthy
Mm-hmm.
of how far this business has gone. And yeah, things don't work out. That's why it's so great nowadays to have really great people around me. I'm still the CEO though. I'm still making the final call, but
Sure.
having great advisors around you, having a great executive team, having a great management team, having just a great team around you really helps guide you in the right direction.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think you self-sabotage from my perspective when um, you have that imposter syndrome.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I I commend you for being so honest and candid in your answer. It is tough, but vulnerability always precedes connection. And someone just heard that and took a big, deep breath and said, "Oh my God, that's me. I'm so glad, because look what Nathan has done. Look what he has created. Look at this service and this product that he's bringing to the marketplace. And it's something that he's had a battle along the way. I mean, you just gave somebody listening right now a huge gift.
Oh, thank you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, we're going to get to kind of our final questions. We got a couple lined up, but before I do that, again, we're going to put links in the show notes. But Nathan, we talked about what you're launching in July. We talked about the value. We talked about, a little bit about who is it for. So if someone's going, okay, is this something I need to be a part of? Where's the best place for them to go and check out what you guys are launching in July?
Yeah. So if you want to check out our founder membership, all access pass, you can go to foundr.com/membership,
Mm-hmm.
and you'll be signed up. You can sign up there to be notified when our all access pass goes live. And we're also going to give you free magazine access to all of our past editions. I think it's 105 plus, and
Yeah.
also our future editions. So you can get a free magazine subscription if you sign up there.
That is awesome. That is amazing. So tell us about, so we talked about Richard Branson. Like, who are some of the people that are going to be featured in this? Give us a little teaser.
Oh, in our all access pass teaching our programs,
Yeah.
or just like, okay, well,
The
look, obviously,
content, like someone's going to
yeah,
dial in today and go, who am I going to see there?
yeah, okay, well, look, you're going to learn from people like Ariana Huffington. We just did an incredible front cover story with Scooter Braun. One of my favorite interviews of all time is with Seth Godin.
Mm,
We've interviewed all sorts of, like, some of the greatest founders of our generation, like even of products. You might know the product, but you don't know the founder. Like, for
yes.
example, Reebok, or for
Mm,
example, Reddit, or for example, there's so many incredible founders that have, blessed our platform. There's so many, like Jack Dorsey.
mm.
I could go on. You put me on the spot,
So
but
many. No, these are all great names.
Reed,
This sounds
Reed
amazing.
Hoffman from LinkedIn, like, yeah, so many incredible founders. It's awesome.
That is amazing. And to learn from these people. I mean, this is incredibly valuable. Pivoters, we've talked a lot about this design peer group. This is sort of a way to access these people in a way that you wouldn't otherwise. My guess is this goes even a little deeper than perhaps a book will, or just sort of this one-dimensional interview. Like, this really gets to, okay, how were they successful? What did it take? And even just having the conversations like we had today, where did we stumble? Because unfortunately for a lot of us, Nathan, as I hear your story, there were quite a few moments where you could have chose plan B, like whether it's when your girlfriend, now fiance, said, I don't know that you work hard enough for this, or when you're applying for marketing jobs and they're like, not enough experience. What I heard over and over again is this sort of unwavering faith in either yourself or the knowing that there was something more for you, like that IT wasn't it for you, that there was something so much more. And I just really want to commend you for keep like jumping those hurdles and go, okay, I hear your feedback, I hear your criticism, I hear that door shut, and then you just kept looking for a window. I just think there's so many points in your story where people would have used that as an excuse to say, I'm going to go back to my good enough life.
Yeah, thank you, April. Well, look, as I said before, like, life is too short to do work you don't enjoy, and that's, a big part of what we do at Foundr is to really help people start and grow businesses. So
Yeah.
wherever you're at, we'd love to help serve you, whether it's signing up to our all access membership, whether it's through any of our content that we put out. We're really just trying to build an incredible platform that help a lot of people at scale.
Yeah. I love it. I love it. For anyone who's sitting there at their job that goes, it's pretty good, but there's something else. Nathan's got the blueprint for that. One last question for you, Nathan. If you could tell the world one thing, what would it be?
I just love to share with people that it's possible. Like, wherever you're at with your business journey, it's possible to start that business, to grow that business, to have a successful business. Like, the students that we see in our platform, where they come from, and the stories that we actually have a dedicated podcast where we publish new episodes every single week of students in our community making changes, creating these businesses, growing these businesses. it's incredible. So um, I'm fortunate to speak to so many successful founders, and I can tell you that one, it's possible. We see the stories every single day, but two, these people are no smarter than you. They've just got that incredible drive, and they just want it bad enough. And yeah, we'd love to help you on your journey if we can. But yeah, that's it.
That is amazing. That is amazing. Definitely need to re-listen to this part again as well. They're no smarter than you. They've got the drive. I think a lot of us have something that we know we're capable of, but we either think it's lack of education, maybe, maybe it's lack of execution, maybe, but we really do need to hear that message over and over again, that it's possible. You absolutely can do this thing. You can create this thing. There's lots of people who've come before you with less education, less know-how, less network, and they made it work. So learn from them and don't give up on whatever it is that, like that kitty that keeps scratching at the door, don't ignore it. It's not going to go away. And it might just be why you were put on this planet to begin with. If you're looking for even more ways to level up your business and your life, we have set up the next video for you. I'll see you over there.